Hello and welcome to the Voice of Todd. I'm Tom, and today we're going to talk about the latest episode of The Mandalorian. This is Season 2, Episode 7, Chapter 15, The Believer. Really quick recap on this one. It's a very quick, very fluid episode. It feels more like a side quest to me than any of the others we've had this season, maybe outside of The Passenger. But we open up on the New Republic prison camp where Mayfeld is being held, serving out his sentence for his crimes following his appearance in Season 1. He's breaking down Imperial wreckage. You've got some TIE fighters in there and some other Imperial stuff that was broken out over the war. Very reminiscent actually of the start of Jedi Fallen Order, the Respawn video game, where you're breaking down old Republic ships and starfighters and things. Maybe a little nod there that we'll get some Cal Kestis at some point, maybe, who knows. But Cara Dune shows up with her newfound seniority in the ranks of the New Republic as sheriff, and has Mayfeld released into her custody. Slave 1 is just nicely parked in amongst all the wreckage as we cut to the crew coming down the ramp, with Boba Fett in his freshly painted armour. It's looking really nice in the new green and yellow. Very slick, very matte. Looks really good. Hopefully this is leading into Boba Fett, or more with Boba Fett in the future. We then straight away head to the mission. This week's job, as it is to find Moff Gideon's location from an Imperial computer, which means we need to head to the Imperial mining world of Marak and break into the base to get access to the Imperial terminal to get said location. Mayfeld, he's better in this one. I quite like Bill Burr's character this time around. He didn't resonate with me in Season 1, but this episode he seemed a little bit more fleshed out. You got a bit more of the man instead of him just goofing around. He is still very much the comic relief though, but it actually worked. So we need to infiltrate this base. We're going to take over one of the mining transports that carries the ore that they're mining here. This ore is exceptionally volatile, so any sudden movements, jarring, blaster fire, explosions, anything like that will cause the transport to explode. And because of various characters in the series and their interactions with the Empire as the war went on, we have Mayfeld and the Mandalorian, the only people who are able to break into the base because of the scanning and the security systems in place. So yeah, we have both of them gearing up in Stormtrooper armor to drive this vehicle. Mandalorian having to remove his helmet. It isn't shown. You see him go from his Beskar into the plasteel of the trooper armor. But again, they're making it known that people are questioning him removing his helmet, and that's a big theme in this episode again. But Mayfeld gives us the lowdown on the locals as we're driving through the road, transporting this ore, and how they have a lack of love for both the New Republic and the Empire so far out in the Rim, and all they really want is freedom. It's really playing into this bigger world of Star Wars that we haven't seen until The Mandalorian, so it's quite nice to get a different viewpoint on the warring factions and expanding out into other species and things. Again, we get Mayfeld questioning the Mandalorian about showing his face and removing his helmet and whatever code he lives by. It's about the 7th person to do it this season. I think this season has really been kick Mando in his beliefs and force him to change, it feels. I'm kind of bored with that whole section of it. That's maybe why I have a few issues with this episode. But we're getting into the core chase of this episode, which is the pirates that start attacking the transport. First wave, Mandalorian fights off as the pirates come up on their skiff and start boarding, trying to place thermal detonators on the ore. Mando fights them off with ease, first wave, but second wave, his blaster runs out of charge. I didn't even know that was a thing in Star Wars, but he's then left to fight waves 2 and 3 of said pirates, hand to hand. It's It's good, it's a nice little action sequence, the choreography's good, it feels very forced, and there's elements in it that, for me, it felt like they were just serving the plot more than actually having anything to really say with this. Mando has very strong plot armor, obviously, it's his show, and he was never really in any real danger. But it ends up with loads of pirate skivs chasing this transport as they're entering the military base. And 2 TIE fighters fly in to save the day, which is quite cool. It's usually the X-Wings that are swooping in to save the day, but today it was TIE fighters. Really nice. Really nice moment as well as the transport comes across the bridge into the Imperial base, and the battalion of troopers that are stationed there come running out to defend it and make sure that it gets in safely. We have shore troopers in the mix with stormtroopers here, which is, again, it's nice to see the variation in different trooper styles. But what really got me was how the Imperials reacted as the transport crossed over into the safety of the base. They all line up and they're saluting the transport, and the Mando and Mayfield really get a hero's welcome when they exit the transport, which was something that we've never really seen the Empire do. Maybe there's been a slight change in leadership since the Empire's died and they feel that they can express themselves a little bit more, but it really felt like this was a connected battalion who had served together, and there was a real camaraderie at that moment, which was nice to see, especially from the Imperials, which we haven't seen this before. So as we pull into the base and our heroes depart, with the troops clapping them on the back and everybody cheering, Mayfeld took his helmet off previously in the episode, so he's there without his helmet. Nobody recognises him, even though he's a former Imperial. Mandalorian still has his helmet firmly on his head, the Stormtrooper helmet that he's wearing. So we go up to the officers' mess where we locate the terminal. Mayfeld says he'll go in, he'll get the location, and then they can get out and make their daring escape, as Cara and Fennec are waiting on one of the ridges looking out at the base, ready to snipe any issues and protect them as they try and make their escape when Boba picks them up. So he heads into the officer's mess and he sees an Imperial officer. I think he said his name was Haas. Was it General Haas or Officer Haas? Who's an older officer who Mayfeld served with when he was part of the Imperial units with the Empire. So he doesn't know if Haas would recognise him, but he doesn't want to show his face. Which leads us to the point where the only person who can go in there and get the information is the Mandalorian. But the terminal needs to scan your face to give you access. Again, part of the security system, it seems fairly sensible, but the story is forcing us to a point where Mandalorian has to remove his helmet after 7 episodes of people telling him he should do it. So he goes in with the helmet on into the officer's mess. He puts the key code thing, the Star Wars USB, into the machine to download the information and get access, and the machine scans his helmet, goes into a bit of a fit, threatens to shut down, creates a bit of an alarm in the officer's mess, at which point the Mandalorian removes his helmet, his face is scanned, and he is given access and downloads the location of Moff Gideon's Star Destroyer. Because of the commotion that this has caused, Officer Haas walks over to the Mandalorian and starts questioning him, asking for his TK number, which Mandalorian obviously doesn't have, as he's standing there looking stupid with his helmet off. And Mayfeld walks over to save the day, kind of tries to talk his way out of the situation. Haas obviously doesn't recognise Mayfeld. Why would he? He's a commanding officer, and any Imperial troops that were under his care probably didn't mean anything to him. But as Mayfeld tries to usher Mando away after saying Mando is his commanding officer, but they call him Brown Eyes, the General Haas, I think it's General Haas, I'm not entirely sure, but Haas says that they are the only 2 troopers to get their transports into the base today after the pirate attacks, and he would like to get them a drink. obviously to celebrate their heroics, but it just feels weird seeing the Imperials acting like this. But we then cut to Haas making a toast, or asking what they can toast to celebrate their victory today. And Mayfeld brings up Operation Cinder. Now, Operation Cinder is a key part of the Battlefront 2 game. It's the mission where Iden Versio, who is the character you play as, and Del Meeko are caused to break away from the Imperials and defy the orders, as Iden's homeworld is attacked by orbital space lasers that are just destroying the planet, basically. It's a show of strength that the Empire still has the ability to rule after the second Death Star was destroyed and the Emperor's dead. It's a nice little campaign if you haven't played it. It's worth playing, and there is elements of Star Wars lore that seems to be being pulled into the expanded, shows and probably movies and things down the line. So it's a nice nod back to the video game, but it's not really much more than that. I don't think we'll be getting a deep dive into Operation Cinder anytime soon. But it turns out in this operation, Mayfeld, not only on the ground when all these lasers started firing, but lost all of his battalion, which he's not too happy about, and in the end decides that he will just shoot Haas in the chest and kill him in the officer's mess, surrounded by troopers, and that's how they're going to make their escape. Cue a shootout with everybody in there. This is meant to be a heavily guarded base, and they're just throwing stormtroopers at them. And the two men, Haas and Mando, have no issue shooting their way out of it. I think by this point Mando's put his helmet back on. But we need to make our daring escape. We break out of a window. It's a really cool scene, actually. It is. I may sound a bit deflated by the episode, but it is a really cool scene. The action is really cool. We get our characters breaking out of the window as covering fire from Fennec and Cara with their sniper rifles. He's just keeping the troopers at bay that are trying to follow them. Boba Fett swoops in and picks up our heroes, and then is chased off the base by two TIE fighters. In amongst all the confusion, Mayfeld is able to grab a long rifle from the back of, I think it's a Tusken rifle, from the back of Slave One, and uses his superior sniper skills to take a pot shot at one of the transports with the ore and blows up the base. So these two TIE fighters are following Slave One, and Boba Fett drops a seismic charge which takes them both out without any real fuss. Seismic charges are cool. I did like the scene in Attack of the Clones with Obi-Wan in his starfighter and Jango and Boba Fett in Slave One, and the seismic charges through the asteroid field, and that's one of my favourite scenes of the prequel series of films. So it's cool to have that back. So I loved that. That was a nice little moment for me. But that's sort of the episode. That's the bulk of it. They decide, or Cara and Mando decide, that in the confusion and the destruction of the Imperial base, Mayfeld was killed, and he's now a free man, and he can roam the galaxy and appear in future episodes as and when they want. It could be interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I did grow to like him in this more than Season 1 episode that he was in, so I'd be up for seeing him again. We'll see where they go. The final moment of this episode is on board Moff Gideon's Star Destroyer, with Moff Gideon receiving a transmission from the Mandalorian. Basically, this is the Mandalorian going all Liam Neeson and telling Moff Gideon that he has a certain set of skills. And then we fade to black. It's setting up the season finale next week. I'm torn on this episode because it's very enjoyable, it flows very well, it looks good, but like last week, I'm a little bit underwhelmed. This episode was directed by Rick Famuyiwa, who directed The Child and The Prisoner from Season 1, so he was the director who directed the previous episode with Mayfeld, so there's a bit of continuation there. He did a good job. I mean, again, the direction and the set pieces and it's all stunning. The money is definitely on the table with this. The music, fantastic. It's a good episode. It feels like a side quest. There's moments in it that just felt like a bit filler or prolonged or plot armory, which you're going to get with any TV series. It's all fine. It's fine to me. My big concern is where we're going with Mando. I'm still trying to process how I feel about the eventual reveal of him taking his helmet off in a room full of people, breaking his code and the code that he has sworn to up to this point for his fallen clan of Mandalorians. It's been building to this. His interactions with the child and how they've built that almost father-son relationship, and everybody telling him how stupid he is to not take his helmet off is played into this point in the series. I get that, it just feels a bit strained. They've made such a big thing of it and now he's taking his helmet off. My big question is, where does he go from here? Because he's broken his code, he's broken his oath. Mayfeld has seen his face, Mayfeld is still alive, and alright, he isn't an adversary in battle, but it's somebody who knows what Din looks like. This could be building onto where the Mando really is in the galaxy and how he feels. Is he going to move into a more Boba Fett-like, I serve myself and I don't follow any creed kind of vibe? Is he going to go down the true Mandalorian feel that Bo-Katan is building in and taking back Mandalore? And are we going to get that kind of... We're now at a point where Mando has just found himself. He's feeling more at home, especially now he's back with the child. And it's obvious he'll do anything to get the child back, and he'll do anything to protect the child. But maybe Season 3 is going to explore the damage that this moment has done to him as a person, having broken everything that he grew up to believe. That could be quite interesting. As I say, I don't know how I feel about it. I've not fully processed it. I've been a big advocate of him keeping the helmet on throughout the entire series. In Season 1, when his helmet was removed in the last episode, I think it was the last episode before maybe, it made sense. I understood how they did it, and nobody saw his face was the key thing there. So this for me, and I mentioned this when I talked about the impending Halo TV show, the character in there, Master Chief. Again, you cannot show his face, regardless of who's playing him. The whole build of that character and everything that everybody connects with is the armor, and it feels very much like that with the Mandalorian. So I'll open-minded, but a little bit hesitant with how they're going to go on from here. I am looking forward to next week's finale. I think it could be quite interesting with what they do and how they go, and how the Mando is going to get the child back, and ultimately what Gideon's going to throw at them to stop them. I don't feel that we've built up to a satisfying conclusion. It feels very up in the air with who Gideon is. We don't really have a backstory on him. We don't really understand him. I don't think this is going to lead to his defeat next week. But we'll see. I'm still enjoying the series, and that's the main thing. It still feels like Star Wars. It's some of the best Star Wars we've had for a very long time. So yeah, well done. I enjoyed it. Wasn't a huge standout for me, but it worked on every level. So yeah, that's it really. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.